You don't need a perfect plan to start making money online. You need the willingness to do the small, boring things long enough for them to start working. If you're over 50, you may already have more of that skill than you realize. Because by the time you've raised kids, worked jobs you didn't always love, dealt with bills, aging parents, disappointment, responsibility, and life not going according to plan, you've probably already learned something a lot of people are still trying to figure out. You know how to keep going. And I think that matters more than almost anything when you're trying to build income online. Not the perfect camera, not the perfect niche, not the perfect office, not the perfect plan. Those things can help, but they're not what makes it work. Consistency is. And I know that sounds simple and maybe even a little boring, but simple and boring are usually where the money is hiding. I want to talk about this today because I've spent a lot of my life thinking that if I could just get the plan exactly right, then everything else would fall into place. And let me tell you, I can plan something to death. I can make the list. I can make the checklist for the list. I can make the color-coded version of the checklist. I can sit there and I can convince myself that I'm being productive because I'm organizing all the things I'm going to do. But at some point, planning can become a very fancy form of procrastination. And I know that because I do it. I'm not telling you this as someone who has conquered it forever and now floats around with perfect discipline and a green smoothie in hand. No, ma'am. I'm telling you this as someone who still has to catch herself. Because my natural tendency is to plan and plan and plan, especially when I feel overwhelmed. And right now, I have a lot going on. We have the dog training business, which is very active and very busy. I have the Amazon influencer business. I'm building this Valerie Creates It brand. I'm working on online income, content, travel content, digital products, affiliate marketing, and all the things. And on top of that, we're still living in a camper while we work through this whole home and mortgage situation. So when I talk about building income online, I'm not talking from a perfect little office with everything neatly arranged and no interruptions. I'm talking from real life, scattered life, a lot on my plate life. The kind of life where you sit down to record or plan or create, and then something suddenly in the business needs attention, or an employee issue pops up, or a customer needs something, or there's some new problem you didn't have on your bingo card for the day. And that's exactly why consistency matters. Because if you wait until your life is calm, organized, quiet, and convenient, you're probably going to be waiting forever. Now, before we go any further, if this is helping you, or if you're already seeing yourself in it, go ahead and like this video and subscribe because I'm sharing this as I go. Not as some internet guru who has everything figured out, but as a woman building the next chapter in real time with a business, a family, bills, stress, interruptions, and a whole lot of lessons learned the hard way. Now let me take you back for a minute. I've tried different businesses before. Some had a little success. Some just didn't go very far. Some were probably more idea than execution, if I'm being honest. But when we started the dog training business, that was different. We had invested everything we had. And I literally mean everything. By the time we got started, we were hungry. And I don't mean, oh, we really wanted this dream hungry. I mean, we needed it to work. We probably would not have been able to pay the next month's rent if it hadn't started working. That kind of hungry. That kind of pressure, that will teach you things. It will strip away a lot of the fantasy and make you ask, what actually needs to be done today? Not what would be cute, not what would be impressive, not what would look good on social media, but what needs to be done today to make this business work. So we worked, and we worked hard. We followed up with people. We learned. We sold. We trained dogs. We solved problems. And when something wasn't quite working well enough, we adjusted. We kept going. And that consistent, persistent effort paid off. The dog training business took off. It worked. And it's continued to work. It's not going anywhere. But that business taught me something I carry into everything now. When something matters, you can't just talk about it. You have to do the work long enough for the work to have a chance to work. Let me say that again because it's a little bit confusing and because I need to hear it too. You have to do the work long enough for the work to have a chance to work. A lot of people quit before the work has had time to prove itself. And I understand why. Because at first it feels like nothing is happening. It feels like you're spinning your wheels. You post the video and maybe only a few people watch it. You upload the Amazon video and maybe the commission that day is tiny. You request brand samples and maybe nobody answers. You start learning some AI tools and your brain feels like it has too many browser tabs open. You try to create content and you feel awkward. You start a digital product and suddenly the laundry, the dog, the emails, and the snack cabinet all seem much more urgent. And this is the moment where most people go looking for a different plan. A prettier plan. A newer plan. A shinier plan. And sometimes that's the trap. Because the plan was not always the problem. The problem was that we didn't stick to the plan long enough to see what it could become. Now, I'm not saying you never adjust. You absolutely adjust. You tweak things. I adjust all the time. But there's a difference between adjusting because you learned something and quitting because you got uncomfortable. There's a difference between refining your path and constantly starting over because the beginning feels a lot more exciting than the middle. And the middle is where most things are built. The middle is not glamorous. The middle is where you're uploading the next video, sending that next email, requesting the next brand sample, posting the next piece of content, learning the next tool, improving the next script, showing up again, even though yesterday did not feel exciting. That's the part that matters, though. And it's also the part nobody really wants to talk about because it's not very sexy. Nobody wants to sell you a course called "Do the repetitive thing for 6 months and see what happens." But honestly, that might be the most accurate course title on the internet. When I started with the Amazon Influencer Program, the things that moved the needle were not complicated. I requested samples from brands daily. I got videos up on my storefront. That was it. Still is. It's not glamorous. It's also not complicated. It's not magic. Request samples. Make videos. Upload videos. Repeat. And even now, Amazon commissions can be inconsistent. They're not very encouraging sometimes. Some days are better than others. Amazon is constantly changing things. The structure changes. The rules change. The way things work changes. They've done a big change recently. And we have to remember that Amazon is working for Amazon. Amazon is working for their stockholders. They're not sitting around asking, how can we make Valerie's day easier? Wouldn't that be lovely? But no. So if you build on a platform, you need to understand that things will shift. Always. And when they shift, you need to not panic every time. You just keep building. You keep creating. You keep learning. You keep putting more useful content out there. Even when daily commissions are small. Even when it feels very slow. Even when you're not sure what changed or why, keep creating. Keep uploading. I did. And I did that because I'd already learned from the dog training business that consistent effort pays off. I'd seen enough small wins to know this could work if I kept doing the work. And that's something I want you to really hear. You don't always need full proof before you keep going. Sometimes you just need enough evidence to stay in the game. A small sale. A comment. A little bit of commission. A new subscriber. A brand that says yes. A video getting a little more traction than the last one. A moment where you realize, wait a minute, maybe this is possible. You take that little piece of evidence and you keep going. Not because you're guaranteed anything. There are no guarantees. But because quitting too soon, that does guarantee that you'll never find out. Now, I want to especially speak to women and men, but mostly women over 50 here, because I think a lot of us underestimate what we already know how to do. By the time we're 50 or older, most of us have had to keep something going. A household, a job, a marriage, a divorce, kids, maybe even grandkids, a business, a sick parent, a hard season, a bill situation, a health issue, a family crisis, maybe all of the above. We've learned how to show up when we're tired. We've learned how to do things we didn't feel like doing. We've learned how to take care of other people. We've learned how to be responsible because somebody had to be. And very often that somebody was us. When I was younger, I was just trying to stay above water. I had 4 kids. I was working. I was dealing with life. I was doing what a boss told me to do. I was not sitting around thinking, now how can I build my personal brand? I was thinking, how in the world do I keep everything going? And there were plenty of days I showed up when I was sick. I showed up when I was tired. I showed up when I didn't like it. I showed up because I had children to care for and no one was coming to rescue me. That may sound hard, and it was. But it also built something in me. And if you've been through seasons like that, it built something in you too. You may not call it a business skill, but it is. You may not call it creator discipline, but it is. You may not call it entrepreneurship training, but let me tell you, life has been training you for a long time. You know how to do hard things when they matter. Now the question is, can you show up for yourself with that same level of commitment? That's the part that gets me. Because so many women will do absolutely anything for everybody else. They'll show up for the kids, for the spouse, for the boss, for the aging parent, for the church, for the neighbor, for the business, for the client, for the dog, for the chicken, if you happen to live my life. But when it comes to building something for themselves, they start questioning everything. Who am I to do this? Am I too old? Do I know enough? What if I look silly? What if nobody watches? What if I start and fail? What if people judge me? And I get it. I do. But I also want to gently challenge you. If you have kept other people alive, kept households running, worked jobs, paid bills, handled emergencies, and survived seasons you didn't think you could survive, why are you acting like posting a video, learning affiliate marketing, using AI, or creating a small digital product is beyond you? It's not. It's just new. And new feels uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you're incapable. It means you are in the beginning of something. And beginnings are often awkward. You know, when I went to truck driving school, I was terrible at first. You can see one of my first videos, I talk about that. I mean, terrible. And there were people who expected me to fail. I was not the obvious person anyone would have picked and said, oh yes, she is definitely going to be great at driving a truck. But you know what? I showed up. I kept going. I learned. I improved. and I succeeded. That experience taught me that being bad at the beginning does not mean you're bad forever. It means you're at the beginning. That's all. But we forget that, especially as we get older, because we're used to being competent. We're used to knowing how to do things. We're used to being the one people come to for answers. So when we start something new and we feel clumsy, it can feel humiliating. You try to record a video and suddenly you can't remember how your own mouth works. You try to use a new tool and every button looks like it's been designed by an alien. You try to figure out affiliate links, thumbnails, YouTube descriptions, tags, and all the other little pieces, and it feels like learning another language. And then you think, well, maybe this just is not for me. But maybe it is for you. Maybe you just need to be willing to be a beginner again. And that's where consistency helps. Because consistency lets you get better without needing to feel confident first. Confidence often comes after repetition. We forget that sometimes. It doesn't come before. A lot of people are waiting to feel confident before they start. But most of the time you start, you do it awkwardly, you survive it, you do it again, and then your confidence starts to catch up. I've had to learn that over and over, and I'm still learning it. Right now, the hardest thing for me is not believing online income can work. I believe it can. I've seen it. The hardest thing for me right now is not feeling scattered, because my life is scattered, physically and mentally. We're still in the camper. I had looked so forward to getting into a home, a real home, a real office, a place where I could set things up and feel like I had some breathing room. And that's been delayed because of the business and the mortgage situation and a whole slew of stuff. So now we're pivoting. We're working on making one of our outbuildings into an office. It's not what I originally pictured, but it is the next workable step. And sometimes that's what consistency looks like. It does not always look like the perfect routine. Sometimes consistency looks like pivoting instead of quitting. It looks like saying, well, this is not ideal, but what can I do from here? It looks like letting go of the fantasy version and working with the real version. And honestly, that's hard for me. I have ADHD, and I can be rigid. So when I make a plan and something interrupts it, I don't always handle that beautifully in my head. I may look calm on the outside, or maybe not, depending on the day. But inside, I can feel frustrated because I had a plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how I wanted the week to go. And then life comes along and says, oh, that's cute, but we're doing it this way now. That used to make me angry. And it still challenges me. But I've had to come to terms with the fact that plans change. Especially when you own businesses. Especially when you have a lot of moving parts. Especially when people depend on you. So now, instead of making some rigid plan that assumes nothing will interrupt me, I try to make more of a what do I want to get done this week plan. That works better for my real life. It gives me direction without pretending I have total control, because believe me, I do not. I think that's important though, because planning is not bad. Planning is very useful. But planning has to lead to action. A plan that you actually start, that's valuable. A plan that becomes a hiding place is not. So if you're watching this and you are a planner like me, I want you to ask yourself something. Are you planning because it helps you take the next step? Or are you planning because the next step feels scary? That question will tell you a lot. Well, the answer will anyway. Because sometimes we do need clarity. But sometimes we're just decorating our fear with notebooks and highlighters. Now listen, I love a notebook. So I'm not judging you. I'm judging both of us lovingly. But at some point, the notebook has to turn into action. If you want to build income online, you don't need to have the next 3 years planned out. You need to know what you're doing this week. What video are you making? What product are you reviewing? What email are you writing? What digital product idea are you testing? What platform are you focusing on? What skill are you learning? What is the next small thing you can do consistently? That's where growth happens. And I want to be careful here, because when people hear consistency, they sometimes think I mean hustle constantly. And that's not what I mean. I'm not interested in telling women over 50 to grind themselves into dust. Most of us have already done enough of that. We're tired. We've carried a lot. We don't need another person on the internet telling us to wake up at 4 a.m., drink something green, take a cold shower, build a 7-figure empire by lunch, and act grateful about it. No, thank you. Consistency is not the same as hustle culture. Hustle culture is often frantic. It's chasing everything. It's doing this, then that, then another thing, and never settling long enough to let something work. Consistency is calmer than that. Consistency says, this matters, so I'm going to keep showing up for it. Not every minute, not at the expense of your health, not instead of rest, but steadily. There is a difference. With Amazon Influencer, my main focus at first was on-site commissions. This is where I put my effort. I created videos. I uploaded videos. I learned the system. I did that for months, and I have some software that helps that I'll put in the description too. Around 6 months and 1,000 videos before really stepping into more off-site work. Now, I do want to expand. I want off-site affiliate income. I want content that supports that. I want Valerie Creates It, the brand, to succeed. I want digital products. I have more ideas. Of course I do. I'm an idea person. But the reason Amazon started working is because I stayed focused long enough to let that lane prove its worth. Then you can expand. That's the part people skip. They want to expand before they've stabilized anything. They want 6 income streams before one income stream has learned to walk. And I understand the temptation. I mean, I have it too. Because multiple income streams sound smart. And they can be. But if you're trying to build them all at once with no rhythm, no consistency, and no proof that any one thing is working, you can end up exhausted and broke with a very impressive spreadsheet. I do not want that for you. I want you to choose something. Work it. Let it teach you. Let it prove itself. Then expand. We did something similar in the dog training business. We did not start out training every high-level service dog case we could imagine. We started with obedience and simpler service dog work. We built skill. We built confidence. We built systems. We learned what worked. We got better. And now we can train a whole lot more. But we don't train everything just because we can. Because doing everything would dilute our purpose. That's a lesson too. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it belongs in your business right now. Consistency also means choosing what you are not going to chase. And that can be hard. Especially when you see other people online doing all the things. One person is making money with TikTok Shop. Another is selling templates. Another is doing YouTube. Another is doing Pinterest. Another is doing Amazon. Another is doing AI prompts. Another is launching a course. And suddenly you feel behind. You think, should I be doing all of that? Maybe, eventually. But not today. You can't do all of that today. And not all at the same level. You need a main thing. Then, supporting things. That's how you keep from scattering yourself into 100 tiny pieces. And I'm saying that as someone who has to remind herself of this constantly. Because I get excited. I see possibilities everywhere. I can see how one thing connects to another. I can see the content ideas, the product ideas, the affiliate ideas, the YouTube ideas, the Pinterest ideas. And that's wonderful. But ideas are not the same as progress. At some point, you have to ask, what am I actually doing this week? That question can save you. Not what could I do? Not what might I do someday? What am I actually doing this week? For me, that might mean filming 2 long-form videos, requesting brand samples, uploading Amazon videos, creating some short-form clips, or it could be building out one digital product idea. But it can't be everything every day. And it doesn't have to be. Because consistency is not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things repeatedly enough to matter. Now, I also want to talk about rest. Because I think this is where women over 50 need permission and maybe a little reminder. You can be consistent and still rest. You can build something and still take time off. You can want more and still be tired. You can be grateful for your business and still need a break from it. Steve and I have put 1,000% into the dog training business. We love what we've built. It's strong, it's active, and it's not going anywhere. But that doesn't mean we are machines. We have both felt the weight of it. And this year, we have intentionally planned more downtime, more vacations, more time away. We've gone on a few cruises because they can be fairly inexpensive, an inexpensive way to truly get away. And we need that. Not because we're quitting, not because the business is failing, not because we don't care, but because rest matters. And it's funny because if I post about doing something besides dog training, there's always somebody who seems to think, oh no, the dog training business must be going under. No, it's not. It's doing very well, thank you. We had a little bit of a slow start in the first quarter of 2026, but we've already made up for that slow start in the first month of the second quarter. The business is strong. But we're also real people. And part of why I enjoy this online income space is because it gives me a creative outlet. It gives me mental space. It lets me build something additional. It lets me use a different part of my brain. And frankly, it gives me options. That matters. Especially when you're self-employed. Especially when you've seen how quickly plans can change. Options matter. Creative outlets matter. Rest matters. So when I say consistency matters, I don't mean you should ignore your body, your family, your health, or your sanity. I mean, choose something important and return to it. Even if the pace has to change. Even if life interrupts you. Even if you need to rest and come back to it. Consistency is not never stopping. Consistency is not quitting just because you had to pause. That's an important distinction. Maybe you miss a day. Maybe a week goes sideways. Maybe you planned to film 3 videos and you only filmed 1. Maybe your business had a fire to put out. Maybe your family needed you. Maybe your energy was just gone. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're a human being with a real life. The question is, do you return? Do you pick it back up? Do you take the next step? That's consistency, not perfection. And that's why I think women over 50 can be so good at this if we stop disqualifying ourselves. Because we know how to return. We know how to keep going. We know how to do things when they're not convenient. We know how to care about something long after the excitement wears off. And if we can learn to apply that to our own goals, not just everybody else's needs, then we can build something. Maybe not overnight, probably not overnight, but steadily. And I want you to think about that. What if the thing you are calling too late is really just not started consistently yet? What if the issue is not your age? What if the issue is not your tech skills? What if the issue is not that other people are ahead? What if you just need to pick one small lane and keep showing up long enough to let it work? That's a much more hopeful thought, because you can do that. You may not be able to control an algorithm. Excuse me. You may not be able to control Amazon. Lord knows. You may not be able to control whether a brand answers your email. You may not be able to control whether a video takes off or not. You may not be able to control whether your plans get interrupted. But you can control whether you take the next practical step. You can control whether you spend another week planning or finally publish the video. You can control whether you request samples. You can control whether you learn the tool. You can control whether you write the outline. You can control whether you create the first version. You can control whether you try again. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean it in a freeing way. Because if consistency is the thing, then you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the youngest. You don't have to be the most polished. You don't have to be the most confident. You don't have to know everything. You just have to start doing the thing often enough to get better. That's doable. It's not always easy, but it's doable. So here's what I would tell you to do after this video. Pick one small thing, not 12, one. Maybe it's filming one short video a day for the next week. Maybe it's watching one tutorial and actually using what you learned. Maybe it's applying to one affiliate program. Maybe it's writing down 10 product ideas. Maybe it's uploading one Amazon video. Maybe it's outlining your first digital product. Maybe it's simply choosing the online income path you want to explore first. But pick one thing. Then do it consistently enough to see what happens. Not forever, just long enough to get real information. Because sometimes we say, this didn't work, when the truth is, we barely tried it. Ouch. I know. I've done that too. But if we want different results, we have to become women who do not just dream, plan, and research. We have to become women who do. Women who try. Women who keep going. Women who rest when needed, but return. Women who are willing to be beginners. Women who stop waiting for perfect timing. Women who stop assuming the next chapter belongs to somebody younger, prettier, louder, or more tech savvy. Because it does not. You are allowed to build something now. You are allowed to want income now. You are allowed to learn new skills now. You are allowed to use your life experience now. You are allowed to show up for yourself now. And no, you do not need to hustle yourself into the ground. But you do need to be honest with yourself. Are you being consistent? Or are you waiting to feel ready? Are you making progress? Or are you perfecting the plan? Are you taking action? Or are you collecting ideas? Because ideas will not build the next chapter. Action will. Small action. Repeated action. Imperfect action. Adjusted action. That's where it starts. And I know many of you watching this have already proven you can be consistent when other people need you. You've shown up for everyone else. Now maybe it's time to show up for yourself. Not in a selfish way, but in a faithful way. Because your life still has room for new things. Your experience still has value. Your voice still matters. And if you can commit to one small step, then another, you may surprise yourself with what starts to build. That is what I want for you. Not pressure, not panic, not fake motivation, just hope with a little backbone. So if this video helped you, or if you saw yourself in any of this, like the video, subscribe to the channel because I'm sharing this journey as I go, including the real parts, the messy parts, the practical parts, and the lessons I wish more women over 50 were hearing. And in the comments, tell me this. What is one thing you are willing to do consistently for the next 30 days? Not perfectly, consistently. Because that might be where everything starts to shift. You're not done yet. So don't start acting like you are.